Welcome to another episode of the Swords and Sports Podcast. One man journey to read 52 fantasy books in 52 weeks and create 52 podcasts documenting the experience. I am your host, Mike Mogues, the man embarking on this journey, and on this stop I am joined by Ryan DeBruyn, author of Equalize, part of the Ether Collapse series, and for the first time in Swords and Sports history, an ex-professional athlete. Yes, I said that. He is an ex-professional volleyball player, which is possibly the most Canadian professional sports athlete you could be, besides, I guess, hockey player. So, that's pretty fucking cool. It's coming up. The interview's coming up right after the book details, as per usual. This is one of those interviews that goes completely off the rails, so just be prepared. As a quick self-promo, you can find this podcast on all your podcast listening platforms, and I can guarantee this one's going to be up on the YouTube channel if you're curious what the YouTube channel is. I don't know it off the top of my head, but you can follow me on Twitter at Swords and Sports for all updates, such as if I'm actually posting the video, when the podcast goes up, which is every Thursday right before 12 o'clock, and what authors are coming on the show, because make no mistake, this is an interview podcast, and the lineup I have for April is going to blow your mind. Shout out to every author who came on in March: Robert Fleming, Sean Paul Stevens, Jay Boyce, and last but not least, Brian Naslund. It was absolutely awesome month of just great content and fantasy books. I said you could listen to this podcast on all your podcast listening platforms, but I didn't mention what those were. It's Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher. Google Play doesn't exist anymore, so Audible as well. Let's get right into these book details because I am beyond excited for this interview. The book is Equalize. The author is Ryan DeBruyn. The series is Ether Collapse. This is book 1. It was published on February 15, 2019. And it is 570 pages of great LitRPG-ness. The publisher is Mountaindale Press. He is the second author from this press that I am beyond delighted to have on the show. And the books in the series are Equalize, Excise, and Earthdom. All E's, triple E. As a quick spoiler warning, this podcast contains spoilers for Equalize, book 1 of the Ether Collapse series. Without any more delays, here's the man himself, Ryan DeBruyn. All right, everybody. I am super excited to be joined by an extra special guest, and I know I say that about a lot of my guests, but this time I truly mean it. I am joined by Ryan DeBruyn, author of Equalize, which is a part of the Ether Collapse series. Welcome to the show, Ryan.
Thanks, Mike. It's great to be here. I'm very excited. This is probably my first interview in a while.
And it was almost the interview that caused your breakup. So
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. We had it scheduled for my girlfriend's birthday, and I had to switch it last minute. Shows you how much I pay attention. I think all of us authors are just completely oblivious. Like, let's be honest.
I'm not going to lie, I don't get complimented often. And I took that as a huge compliment that you were just so gung-ho about this. You're like, nothing else could possibly be more important going on than this.
I agree. That's what I was saying. I tried to explain that to her. She wasn't having it. So I had to back out. I had to. It was...
What it also kind of scared me a little bit. I was like, I hope he has something planned for her.
Well, the worst part was that I did. Like, I had sushi ordered. I had like everything planned, but I had done it so far in advance, trying to be like all organized that it just completely slipped my mind. So I was like, oh right, yeah, that I did plan all that. Yeah, that's right. Like, my parents are like, when are we coming over for dinner? I was like, oh. Oh, man, I hate myself for that.
I love it because not only did it give us an awesome start to this, it lets me think that I'm almost as important as your girlfriend. Shout out to her.
Fair. I will take it. You know, we'll have a talk after the interview off the record, and we'll set up a date.
I mean, we got a long way to travel, but that's the beauty of the modern age. We could get this done.
Exactly.
So, one of my favorite things is looking on authors' Goodread pages because I love the comments and stuff like that. And I have to ask I think it was in 2018, C.W. Ashley commented on your Goodreads page asking if you got around to reading their book. So, my question to you is, did you ever get around to reading that book?
So I haven't read that book of C.W. Ashley. I've read some of their other, I believe it's a him. It could be a her.
That's why I didn't.
I'm not sure. But I've read some of their other books, and I've reviewed, like, before I was an author, I reviewed some of the books. Really like what they were doing. It was kind of like a young adult vampire Dampier kind of mix up, and I really enjoyed it. But no, unfortunately, I didn't get around to reading that book. I like to listen to all my books, and so I keep messaging them actually whenever they bring it up, being like, "When's it going on Audible?" Because like that's, I drive around, I clean the house, whatever it is, and you can just listen and be doing two things at once. And I find that that works for me, because otherwise, if I'm sitting down, I feel like I should be writing. So that's sorry, CW, if you watch, I do want to read it. Just let's get it on Audible. I don't know how to do it, but maybe the fans can make a strong push for that one.
That is just such a perfect answer because it was like the nicest way of saying no.
I plan to read it. I do.
What this isn't like indicative of CW. It's more of just like, I find it funny. Like, what is the hope to accomplish by just publicly commenting on an author's Goodread page? Like, how is that supposed to reach you?
Well, and that's like, I find that Goodreads is an interesting one, because like I'll get comments from people on Goodreads saying like, I don't update it enough. And I'm like, I don't really go on Goodreads often at all. Like, I have my author profile. I was using it when they had the ability for authors to do status updates, which was really cool, because then you could be like, I'm writing this, I just released this. But then they changed stuff, and it became even harder to use. And like, basically every author I talk to is like, yeah, just link it to your website and leave it alone, and that's how people can find you. And I was like, okay, that's what I have to do. And I still don't know. Yeah, he's done that multiple times, or she, I should say. But exactly that. It's like, that was the first response I gave, was what I told you just now, was as soon as it's on Audible, I will read it. I think the last book I read in print or on Kindle was probably 3 years ago, approximately, before I became a writer. Just because, again, it's like I sit down and I'm trying to watch a movie downstairs, and I'm like, oh, you know what I could be doing? I could be writing. So I come up to my office. It's horrible.
Right. No, I totally get that. Goodreads is a wild one. I feel like there's like a layer of anonymity to it that is almost one step removed from Twitter. So you get like weird questions on there.
Yeah, you do. And you get some like really like, it's kind of like, I'm not sure how much you know about Royal Road, but it's similar to that, in the sense that you get some very negative hate comments on there, and you try to take it with the best grain of salt you can. I know that I read through some of them, and I immediately was like, oh, I guess that my book is horrible if you read only the negative ones. So it's very funny. Like, and you got to have a thick skin, I guess, but it's definitely like, some people have their name on there, but it's like, just leave it and never come back to it, right? So get it, like, the books aren't for everybody. So
you mentioned that you mostly listen to books now. Something cool that I was like, when I was looking you up and stuff, that you were doing was you were having the narrator of your audiobooks doing live recording.
Yeah.
That's a really wild time.
It's really cool. If you ever get a chance, Steve Campbell does it, Andrea Parsnow does it, a few other narrators that I know of do that. And it's awesome, because like, first off, as an author, I can then go in and listen to something that they have questions about as they're doing it. So it's kind of, he's like, oh, how do you say this person's name? So I can just pop into his channel. I'm always at the computer during the day anyway, and just listen real quick and be like, oh, okay, no, I had it this way. So it saves the back time on the recording, because then of course you don't have to, tell them, listen through your whole book and be like, yeah, the main character isn't pronounced Azazel, like it's Azrael, like that's how it's spelled. I'm sorry, and it's interesting because Luke Daniels recorded my Ether Collapse series, And it was the first book I listened through it, and I had like, oh, well, we got to change the pronunciation of this, because obviously in your head you have it a certain way, right? And I found that was really cool. And so Steve Campbell is the narrator that does that for Tech Doing. Yeah, so it's really cool. And he's a great narrator.
So you tune into those? Like,
yeah, absolutely. I'm in there, and like a lot of the fans are in there too. I think, on average, it's 10 to 15 people at any one time, and it's pretty cool because like you see the live, you hear the live reading, you then see the fans typing live as he's recording, and they also catch little things. Like it's like oh, that didn't sound right. I don't know, like the sentence, he puts it out of order, or he moves a T around in a sentence, and they'll catch him, and he'll actually go back live and re-record it, and then he'll do like the wrong voice for something and go back and re-record it. It's really cool. Like it's like a behind the curtain of how audiobooks are done. Yeah, so it's amazing.
That's an awesome interactive way to do things. I think everybody should try checking that out. I think the second I mess it up, I'd be like, I fucked that one up, my bad. Just throw my hands up. Be like, can we run it back?
And it's so cool. And like bloopers are becoming a really big thing in our genre for sure. I'm not sure how much it's becoming, branching out, but we add kind of 5 minutes of bloopers to the ends of things, and they're hilarious because like you just hear the person swearing at themselves, or exactly that, just throwing their hands up and being like, this like, screw you, Ryan, like you're I can't read your writing today, and then like quitting for the day, basically rage quitting in the middle
of
reading
your book. I love that. You're really on the front edge, like the cutting edge of like interactive author fan relationship. I loved it. I love this.
I think that's a big thing in our genre. Like I really think LitRPG has some of the biggest fan to author interactions of any genre that I've been part of. Like obviously, there's Comic-Cons and stuff like that where you can go and you can sit and watch your authors on a panel. But I do kind of live office hours when I can. Everybody in our genre, for the most part, tries their best to do some interacting, as well as on top of that, a lot of us will go to Dragon Con or Comic-Cons and try to interact there as well. And so that's, I can only speak for myself, but I know that drew me as a fan into the genre early on. And then of course I got to write a book and be super lucky to be part of the genre. So
yeah, incredible. Is that like a Mountaindale Press marketing strategy, kind of encourage you to be more interactive?
So Mountaindale Press doesn't really dictate anything, actually. They don't, they're starting to get a little bit cracking down more on timelines of sequels and stuff like that. So when they give you a contract now, they're actually going to say, we need this book by X date.
Right.
But they weren't for quite a while. Exactly. And they didn't have that. When I started with them, it was kind of, okay, we'll publish as we go. And now, of course, they're becoming much bigger. They're trying to publish, I want to say 52 books this year. And yeah, exactly. You got to slot yourself into that. And so they need dates and they need timelines for you. So I'm kind of lagging on a tail end of like being grandfathered in at Mountaindale Press, which is lovely, because then I don't have those timelines looming over my head. And so that let me write kind of a pet project of mine, which releases in May 7th, I believe. Yeah, so super excited.
Get that plug in real quick.
Yeah.
Throw that in. What's it called? And do we have an exact release date?
It will be May 7th, and it is Starred Tower is the name of the book, and the series will be called System Misinterpret. It's going through copy editing right now. So this is my first release on my own that I'm trying as an independent author, not going through MDP or anything like that. And so I'm giving myself lots of time and trying to figure out kind of the market. Actually, I can take these off. But yeah, like just exciting. It's very different to see it because like MDP handles all that stuff, right? They do a ton of stuff for me, and I'm spoiled. I really am. And I'm starting to realize that now.
Yeah, I mean, it's always an interesting like conundrum, you get used to doing things one way and then you're kind of on your own. Jay, who is our mutual friend, kind of is doing the same thing. So I find that fun.
Yeah. And I think part of that is because MDP is looking for a full series now before they publish your book, because from understanding a little bit of the marketing side of it, it's really good for them to have, what they call shotgun releases. So it's like, first book, a month later, second book, a month later, third book. And it really helps keep the fans interested in the series. Whereas, me, Jay, Xander, a lot of the early published authors in MDP were lucky enough that it was such a new genre still. It was, maybe 2 years old when we got into it, that basically people were just ravenous and they were searching for LitRPG, anything. So they would eventually hit buy your book and come through and read and review it. So we're, I guess, the grandfathers now of the genre, only being a couple years older than some of the other authors in the genre. And we're trying to play catch up. We're trying to figure out, okay, how do we stay relevant in this new market, right? So it's amazing. It's and I think COVID also played a huge role in that, because talking with people, it's like, well, they're home from work or they're working from home, and so a lot of their time they can actually just multitask, and they're getting less workload, and so they're writing books in the genre. So that is really cool. It's giving the fans these stories that you wouldn't be reading otherwise. So
yeah, it's a little different than a shotgun wedding, but kind of the same concept. You both get
yeah, the babies have to get they have to be wed before the babies come. That's how it works. So
So I'm fascinated by this. This is the first time prepping for an author interview that I've ever watched volleyball highlights.
Yeah. Yeah, I was definitely, so I tried to go to the Olympics for beach volleyball, and I played professionally indoor overseas in Germany. Really had a great time. Basically got to chase two dreams now. So I always had wanted to be an author, and I wanted to be a professional athlete. And so I was, professional athlete for many years, which I think helped quite a bit and transferred over to writing, because I get up early, I set my day, I have to do whatever it is that I said, 2,000 words of writing, and get the schedule and kind of have the discipline to do it. And that I credit a lot of that to being a professional athlete, right? So yeah, maybe it's not, but I think it's funny because some people will go through my books, for example, and I use words that are very common for athletics, like a muscle fires. That's the most common one. And I've been told now after the fact that that's a very athletic thing to word it as. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess.
Right. I was thinking more like protein poops. That's really an athlete one that you include that that people might not understand.
Yeah. Sorry. Protein which?
Poops.
Oh. Yeah. I have a lot of, and so that was one of the big hits on my first series, Ether Collapse, was that I don't really use swearing, and I had the system.
I have a ton of questions about that later on.
Right. We'll wait then. We'll wait because it's a lot of that stuff. It was I did that intentionally and thought it was just funny. Thought it was okay, this will carry over. Yeah, we'll wait till you get to the questions. I'm sorry, I don't want to just go on a tangent.
No, this is great. My other question is this Twitter account that has 33 followers, Ryan VC Beach, that hasn't tweeted since 2014, and it's a volleyball account. Is this you?
I guess so. I didn't even think I had a Twitter. Now that I did make that, now that you say that, because being an independent author, as an athlete, you had to kind of make yourself into a billboard. To give a better explanation of that is that when you're selling yourself as an athlete, you kind of are saying, look, you can pay to have Coke up on that billboard and people are just going to drive by it, or you can pay to have Coke on my back and I'm going to be on TV and I'm going to move, I'm going to have a personality, I'm going to rep you in such a way that is better than a billboard, right? And so I created a lot of social media stuff back then, trying to create that because I was reading all these books, and that was one of them. Yeah, and I didn't even remember that I had a Twitter. I thought that was my handle for Instagram. Now that you say that, and no, it was not. It was definitely my Twitter. And what did I tweet? I'm curious.
You tweeted 1 game to qualify, hashtag Long Beach GS, Austria, tomorrow at 10 a.m. And then you just tagged a bunch of things with the hashtag Bring It On.
Yeah, and that was it. That was actually, so that tournament, that was the Long Beach Grand Slam. So that was the biggest tournament that I got to compete in. Grand Slams are run by the FIVB. And that tournament, I had the game match. Literally, it was 14-13 for us in the third set. And I was up to block, and it hit my hand, hit the top of the net, rolled onto our side, and I set my partner, and I believe the other team got the point. I don't remember how it happened, but we had, like, I could have just blocked that ball and it was our game. And I'll always remember that tournament because we were like 1 point away from qualifying, which was huge because it's a Grand Slam means it's the biggest tournament other than
Right.
Worlds and the Olympics. And so I think if that would have gone the other way, it's a different point. You're in the tournament, you're at the hotel, you get to play against all those teams. Yeah, we're not going to beat the top in the world, but you get the chance to see it. And the accomplishment that comes with that would be huge to drive me and my partner, Simon Fecteau-Boutin at the time, in the right direction.
So in some weird way, that role of the volleyball is the reason why we have this book series.
Absolutely, without a doubt, because after that, it would have been, I played for another year, and I just kept getting injured before any of the big tournaments that we were trying to go to, like nationals I'd go to, and I got injured in like the pool play. And so eventually it was just like, hey, I can't go any farther if I just keep getting injured whenever I'm in peak physical condition. So I went back to school and luckily read a book called Dante's Immortality. And found out that it was publishing on Royal Road and it was in the LitRPG genre. And just, yeah, it really kind of just worked out really, really well to like kind of, I started publishing on Royal Road being like, hey, I've always wanted to be an author. I'll just start writing my story. And that did well. And then Dakota contacted me. That was how I got into the genre.
What a non-traditional route that is. Do you think there's people out there that are fans of the Ether Collapse series that are happy your sports career kind of petered out? Is that the most meanest question you've ever gotten asked?
That is, like, how do you answer that? Yeah. So I guess the answer to that would be, I hope that they're happy to have this story, but also sad that I didn't get to live my dream. I don't know. Yeah, like I guess so. There's definitely some gung-ho fans that have reached out to me, and they still continue to reach out to me. And I'm sure if I was writing slower, they would not be happy with me. Let's put it that way. That's like the most diplomatic answer I can give.
This is how you never get a guest back on a show. You ask questions like that. What's your favorite first-person shooter game?
I definitely played a lot of Fortnite. I know that's not really first person because you're kind of in that third person view.
I'll
for
give
a lot
it
of
to you.
it.
I'll allow
Okay.
it.
I was going to say at college, we were definitely playing a ton of that when I was doing electrical engineering, me and my friends, and we tried to do our own stream, and we thought we were hilarious. I don't think anybody else did. And then before that, I did CS, and I actually played in the Cali leagues, which was a lot of fun.
Jesus, man. Is there anything you're not great at? What is going
Well,
on here?
lots of things. I was not like, it was like, it was kind of, we were one of the bottom teams, but we had a lot of fun. And, then you go into a normal game and get to destroy people because you're playing against these literal gods, and they're you just don't understand. You're like, how did he ricochet the grenade and it landed on my head? Like, I don't even, okay, cool.
Now, what was better, your KD in Counter-Strike or your kill set?
I think it would have been KD, I think. Oh,
Jesus, that's impressive stuff.
well, like, and that's the thing. Like, it's been like, so that's the thing. Our team we revolved around two players, and so it was always, so it was kind of, we played in such a way that it was kind of protect our two best, and I was kind of the third, I guess, if you will, best. And so whenever somebody didn't show up, that kind of forced me into the position of like, okay, you're the most accurate, you're the most, so the people that would be in the front and would kind of tell us what everything was happening, and they would always die first. That would let us, I wasn't one of the ones that had to sacrifice themselves for scouting, I guess, is the reason I was good.
I've never been happier that I got to compare someone's kill death ratio to their sports statistics. So this is only going in the most positive of directions.
Well, that's it. And it's funny because it's like in volleyball, it was more based on percentage, right? So it would be kind of, if you had a high kill percentage, even if you only had 4 kills in the game, it was, you didn't want to make any errors. So you wanted like 100% kill ratio. Whereas in, Counter-Strike, it was, you were going to die probably every round, right? So it didn't matter. So yeah, I wasn't as, I guess, good at volleyball as I was at video games, I guess.
I don't know, man. I was watching that highlight tape. You were sick.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I definitely, I got to play pro. So that tells you something. I got paid to do it. And that,
so hot haters.
Better than most. Yeah, exactly. Okay. I got paid to work out and play volleyball. So there it is.
And you had a 97.8 GPA. So you were also a nerd.
Yeah, I definitely was. That was funny because all through high school and all through my first, because I went to University of Winnipeg first. I did not have high grades. I was kind of like bare scraping the bottom of the barrel. If I could get to the 60% and pass the course, that was all that mattered.
Athlete schooling.
Exactly. And so, I couldn't focus. And so when I went back to school kind of as an adult, right, I was
adult schooling,
exactly. And so it's like, okay, I'm paying, this is serious. Yeah, absolutely. And so that's why I got a better GPA, I think, is that I was like, okay, let's actually go to class and do the homework. So
that is super impressive. I can't believe that there's tape of you from 2005, 2006. That's nuts.
There's a lot, actually. And it's funny because I've lost probably more tape on myself. Cause there was tape of me from Georgian College, Algonquin, and University of Winnipeg. And I don't know where any of it is anymore. But I find some of it randomly. That was really awesome because that was done by the team, the assistant coach of the team at Georgian, and he somehow went back and found the 2005, 2006 kind of video of me at nationals playing. So yeah, it was awesome.
Dude, that's not. I should have reached out to him before this interview, see what he could have done.
He had all the dirt. I'm glad you didn't.
When you spike the ball and hit someone in the face, is that the most satisfying feeling in the world?
Depends what they said. There's guys that you feel bad. I broke a kid's glasses. Basically, they were there. They folded in half and shattered. And I felt horrible because it was high school and the kid wasn't he just ended up standing there looking up at me and just, got hit real hard, and he had cuts and stuff, and I felt horrible. And then there was kids that were trash talking me that I hit, and you just feel amazing, right? One of the kids basically punched my thumb as I was blocking, and I got to hit him, and he kind of did a pirouette and fell. And
God, that's amazing.
I felt pretty good afterwards, and I'm not gonna lie, I did cheer and feel like quite the jerk about it after the fact, but yeah, he cheered when he hurt my thumb. So I'm competitive. I should say that. I should warn people.
I love this. You have over 600 career kills. Do you feel guilty for killing so many?
No, not even a little bit. You know what? I got away with all of them. So.
All right. Was your mom mad that you had to borrow her MacBook to make a video in April of 2019?
I have taken so much stuff from my parents. Honestly, it's funny because I did an interview with Paul Bellows, and it's my office that he wanted me to. He's like, okay, take a picture of your office, and it was literally the living room of my parents' house because literally I'm like, yeah, what office? What are you talking about? I write at school in a computer lab if I can, or I'm at home on my bed. I'm not sending you a picture of that. You don't want to see the yellow pillows and disgusting college junk. So I'm like, yeah, you know what? this is really gorgeous because my parents, have some money and I was a piss poor student. So yeah,
So
I've taken everything.
You got to use the set that you're given. I mean,
Absolutely.
if you move this camera 1 inch to the left or the right, it's just straight piles of shit all over the place.
Exactly. You just like clear it to the side and that's it. That's what we've got. Yeah, exactly. So yeah,
Oh God, I think we're ready to move on to some of these book questions I got.
Awesome.
Are you ready?
I don't know now. You're making me nervous.
Oh, no, don't be nervous. One of my favorite things in the world, and this is a segment I've done since the initiation of this show, is fantasy filth. I'm kind of obsessed with the curse words that authors come up with that are kind of in world. So we touched on this before, but you have an all-time list of, I guess you could call them non-traditional profanity.
Yeah. I've been told.
Can I read off some of my favorites to you?
Okay, done.
And I have a follow-up to this as well. So I liked water drinker. It's important to stay hydrated. I don't know how that's an insult.
Yeah.
Twig and berries, just a classic dick joke.
You gotta put that one in there.
Coconut milk's pulp. That one just left field.
Completely. There's a lot that
Gutter leaves. I mean, you're tall. I assume someone's made you clear out a gutter before, and you're like, "This is horrible."
It's like a swamp. It's like mini swamps, and then who would want to really clear those out?
Donald Duck,
Darkwing. I think it's Darkwing Duck. Actually, I'm pretty sure. Maybe it is Donald Duck, but I think it's Darkwing.
If it's Darkwing, then I missed out on a big one, and I apologize to you. Son of a cricket.
Hey, son of a cricket. Yeah, that was there. Yeah. And so it's funny because some of these that you're saying, I had as completely out of left field because, spoiler alert to anybody who's listening, the system in my book is essentially just randomizing. If you try to swear, it randomizes what comes out of your mouth, but you don't really hear it because your brain is still thinking what you said. But if you kind of play back what your ears are hearing, you'll hear what you were saying. And that was the whole joke of it, was you're getting this random, tartar sauce as a swear word and something diarrhea as a swear word. And I'm thinking I'm laughing my ass off as I'm writing these. And of course, people thought that he was censoring himself.
People were big mad about this.
I have never seen, honestly, it's hilarious in the sense that, there's kids that die in my first book. Another spoiler alert. It's an apocalypse.
I've got that included. Don't worry.
Okay.
We've got
and it's hilarious. Horrible tragedies happen in the book. And it's how come he can't swear properly?
There are some swear words though, so I don't know why people got so hung up on this.
When the swear words are damn or hell or what I guess would call the PG-13.
Right.
Yeah, so I left those ones in there. Hell, all those kind of God damn it's, those sort of things, because I felt first off, those things didn't exist when the system was created, right? So it wouldn't know them as swear words. So
right.
Okay, so so whether or not this could be, so my original thought, because a lot of the stuff in my book is taking old world kind of myth or Atlantis, El Dorado, Jormungandr, all this stuff that is common across our entire world. Everybody's heard these myths, the City of Lost Gold, whatever it is. And so I was trying to tie them in and weave them in. And so some of it is Bible related. And I actually was originally and was talked out of it. So I haven't said this live before, so we'll see. So my original thought was the Virgin Mary was the one who petitioned the Atlantean Council to censor all swear words, and her original name was the Virgin Ears Mary, and she got that nickname because of her censorship of everyone basically on Earth. So I had that as kind of my original thought and was told steer away from that, because if you cross the line into kind of the religious like Virgin Mary, the mother of Jesus. Let's be honest, like you can't get somewhat more offensive than that. And so I was like, yeah, you're right. I definitely should not do that. So I decided to scrap it, and I just left it as, okay, well, I didn't put the backstory for how the swear words got censored. But essentially somebody had petitioned back in the old world for, to protect their kids, which I think is super. Like if you have a very advanced society, one of the biggest things that you worry about is your children. And so there was somebody kind of like Greta for climate change who was like, no, this can't happen. We can't have people swearing in front of our kids. We're censoring everybody. And that was like, I was like, okay, that's absolutely amazing. I'm doing it. And then I had to roll back what I was originally kind of weaving into the story.
So 2 things there. 1, good thing you didn't ask me, because I would have said steer into that, because that's fucking hysterical.
I thought it was hilarious too.
And 2, now I'm going to troll the trollers and say, well, if you have a problem with this, you hate the Virgin Mary.
It was all her idea.
That is,
oh man.
I thought it was funny, the words. I thought this was like creative, because you repeated maybe 2 of them.
Yeah, and I tried to repeat some of them just to like,
just so it didn't seem so out of there. Right.
Exactly. Like it would, if it's randomizing, repeating would happen. And so I was like, okay, I got to. And some of them are my favorites, and I'm going to probably repeat them in future. I think one of the ones that got hit on the most was tartar sauce. And so I'm definitely using that one again.
So
it's just
funny.
a question of where and how.
I just thought he was the super.
And the diarrhea one or something.
This destroyed my theory for this follow-up question, because now that I know that there's a system that kind of randomizes it, my question was, is Rockland a corpophile, which is someone who has like a scat fetish, because he's got maybe 1/3 of the curse words are poop related.
And so it's funny because like when I was doing those poop jokes, it's lowbrow humor, I guess is the way to say it. And I think an author in our genre has brought more attention to poop related jokes than anybody else. Like I love his books, but of course he's been, and I don't know, I won't say the name of the book, but in LitRPG, there's basically one author who's now known for poop, poop chapter, if you will. I thought it was hilarious, and I think Nick Podell, who, well, I guess I'm giving a little bit more away there, but he read it and made it hilarious. But now everybody, like for any sort of poop joke, is like, oh, how could you do poop jokes? And I'm like, oh my God, like it's not, okay, never mind, we'll never do them again. So yeah, I don't think so. So to answer the question, I know, but they were randomized. And he was probably saying shit. And so it just randomized it to the PG version of shit, because it would know that meaning. Whereas, the F-bomb is harder to randomize, and the B word, because of its multiple meanings. Like I think we've all seen the things where it's like the diversity of the word, the F word has so much. So
this is great. I love that the randomizer knows what protein poops are. That makes me happy to know.
Yeah, protein shits. Yeah. And that's like, I mean, I've had friends say that, and I'm like, oh, that's offensive to like everything, but I like it. I'm using it, but I had to like tone it down because I felt like shit was still a bad word. I don't know why. Yeah. Anyway, I'm sure it's PG-13 enough, but
Well, I'm just gonna say I love what you did with it.
Thank you.
Is being a kill stealer the worst thing you can ever be in life?
Yes. That being said, when I played World of Warcraft, there was a time where that was my goal, was to just go and be a shit disturber. And, like world raids, my goal was to just go in and, gank the healers of, there was like a guild in my server called Viz Major, and they were like world first for like so many things. And I built a certain character and basically just had his name as Gank Stealer, actually, and would just go and attempt every world raid that they were in. I would try to kill them. and wipe them as many times as possible and in any way that I could. And I think it was hilarious for me. And then after kind of joining some of those long raids where, you spend hours and hours and hours getting the strategy down and getting it right. I felt horrible. I was like, I was playing World of Warcraft by myself. And so I was like, oh, this is how you play. This is what you do. You have fun. The whole idea is to, kill other people or kill mobs and level up. And so, I'll say sorry, Vizmir, if you're watching this.
Is this a public apology?
I guess so. I
don't think you should apologize to anyone.
Okay, good.
Because that is hysterical. I just love this idea of you virtually going around just pissing everybody off by kill stealing.
Yeah, and it was fun. It was so much fun. And then there was once or twice where, you would do that and essentially be able to take the last couple points off of kind of not the big world bosses, but some of the raid bosses that were out in because they were just down to 10% health. So, you could just pop every cooldown you had and maybe get them low enough. And that was only with 5-man groups. And so that was, random people, but it was still so much fun just because
now I think subconsciously you don't feel bad about this behavior at all because
it was still fun.
Rockland instantly starts kill stealing and it pays off for him.
Big time. And that's the thing, I think it's a legitimate strategy in games a lot of the times. It's wait until somebody else does all the work. And if that's not included in your book, well, you're probably not giving it as much. That being said, Rockland's kill steals are because two monsters are fighting each other and they both injure each other so greatly that he basically takes the last 1%, 2% of the health of a steel skinned wolf and kind of stabs it through the eye to kill it. And that was kind of his kill steal. But this is the interesting part about writing post-apocalypse is that there's serious repercussions for everything. So I love reading some of the books where it's VR because there's a little less seriousness. You read something where the person goes around and does some of the shit disturbing stuff, and it's funny and it's fun. But if somebody was to be doing that in a post-apocalyptic real world scenario where the person's dying, they're a horrible person. So it's interesting. It's kind of you got to balance the both, and you want to have some of those game elements in there, but you also have to convey that it's serious, and so I'm in love with the post-apocalyptic genre for that reason, because it's I feel it ups the ante right off the bat. This is real. You could die. The world has changed. It's not friendly. Boom.
Well, the only consequences he has is he gets a pet. The pet is okay with the fact that he killed its mom.
He didn't kill his mom, actually. So that's why. The wolf killed the mom.
Right.
He killed the wolf. So
because they ate it.
Exactly. They did. I don't think I have it written in that he eats it. He has it in storage. The meat from
someone ate his mom.
Yeah, definitely. Now that you say that, that's why I didn't write it in. Aesop, wouldn't be happy about that.
No, sorry, but it happens,
It does,
Sounds
it's a dog
delicious.
eat dog world, or a chimera eat chimera world.
All he gets called is the notifications come up. Whoa, Captain Killstealer.
Yeah, that's definitely there, and I love that one. The whole thing is that the system is snarky, and I actually haven't revealed why. I kind of have hinted at why it's snarky in that area, but I haven't kind of revealed it yet. And so in book 4, there's kind of more of the reveal of why it's snarky in that area, and I can't ruin too much, I don't think, but it's kind of the birth of a race happens.
Yeah, we got
in that area.
We got to save something for when you deny coming back on here for book 2.
Exactly. When book 4 and 5 are out, we have to have more to talk about. So I'll hint at it here now, and then you can ask me questions about it later. There you go.
I actually pulled out some of the snarky, I called it message comedian. And I thought the best one was, we won't be able to find you or receive the signal, but at least it will give you hope. you would be luckier to have died.
Yeah, that's basically if you create a black hole using the bag of holding. Yeah. So, oh no, yeah, I think that was it. That was the one that I was on, and I loved it. I was like, yeah, that's perfect. Like, yeah, go ahead and initiate your beacon, but you're dead basically. Like you just would have been better if you were killed instantly, but.
Well, whatever. You know what?
Yeah.
Hope is important. I'd rather die with hope than just
Exactly.
die.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I'd rather die instantly in that situation.
That's true.
Oh man.
At any point, does Rockland consider going to Sella? Hey, I'm tired of listening to your advice. You died.
That's a good point. No, he doesn't. He wants to get laid. No. Yeah, and like I mean, the interesting part is the circumstances around how Sella died are really unique, and that's like one of the big kind of mysteries. And so like what I've done is I've written the main series, like so I've got kind of 2-3 more books planned in the first arc of Rockland's story before essentially it changes and there's another arc to Rockland's story. I've written book 1 of Azrael's story. I'm currently working on book 2 of it. But it's such a long tale and it's hard to, show everything that happened. And so Stella didn't die because of her own mistakes.
No, she got poisoned, right? Isn't that what it says?
Got poisoned by chimera poison, actually. And there was lots of people that could have cured her, but they couldn't go against kind of the big bad, if they will, who kind of had taken control of the earth, of Gaia at the time. And the reason that she was left to wither and die, even though her family was part of the most powerful guild at the time, is because of that. And she's kind of has to find out a lot of reasons, a lot of the reason why, a lot of the nitty gritty that kind of went into that, and why she was just left, why there's actually a hint of it in, I think it's book 3 of, there hasn't been, any woman on Gaia that was allowed to level past the master class, without leaving. Like they sent a lot of them off planet. And yeah, so I'll point that out.
I still think that would be question number 1. Like, why the hell am I going to listen to you? You died.
Yeah.
Let's not remember who's the ghost here.
Yeah, and so she does become human, obviously, and
hot.
Exactly. And so I agree. And he does get angry with her in book 3. Kind of book 3 sees Rockland at his darkest, and kind of cycles on his downward spiral. Because like I feel like if you were thrown into a world where everything changed and everybody's dying around you and it's as dark as the ether collapse can be, he kind of is holding on by a thread through book 1 to 3, and basically the loss of his family, which is revealed to the reader that is not actual loss of his family, sends him over the edge and he leaves. And so book 4 will see him kind of off on his own, starting, and a different mentality, which I'm excited, very excited to write. So it's kind of like the first 3 books were an arc, a mini arc inside of the bigger arc, and then the next 3 books will be, a different kind of perspective as well. So
awesome. One of the things that I was happy made it into this post-apocalyptic world is political correctness. So there's a part where the Native American guy goes, "What, because I'm a native, I'm supposed to run around upset about past wrongs?" Honestly, Derek, if we weren't friends, I would punch you in the face. Just let it go. Listen, just because it's a post-apocalyptic world doesn't mean you shouldn't be woke.
I don't think I'm going to use that quote. I think it's interesting because living in Winnipeg, here in Canada, it's a city that's surrounded by reservations. So you kind of get to know some of the natives in the area, and all of them have their own story. And the way Hollywood, and this isn't a hit on Hollywood, that's not what I'm saying, but the way Hollywood has portrayed, natives, the way that, it's portrayed every race is kind of where a lot of our stereotypes come from for things.
Right.
And, that was kind of what my comment was more just like, it's like, just because, you think this way because you've seen a movie, that's you're, putting me into that role. So yeah, no, I agree. But yeah, you're right. Like those things have to happen, but I also got in trouble for that. And I don't know if you read those comments, but some people were like, he's too preachy,
Oh, come on. What is with this?
Yeah. And part of the reason Gaia gets so upset and resets the world is because it's just a complete mess with, plastic in the oceans and all this, stuff. And I was like, but that's somewhat true. Like, have you never seen a picture of the garbage patch? Like, have you never seen like some of these things? Like, I'm not saying that, humans are horrible, but I'm saying we're not perfect.
I'm saying it.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And like, that's all I was trying to say was, it's like, yeah, like if Gaia was alive, you don't think she'd be a little upset at what humans are doing to the earth, strip mining stuff and, basically stealing oil from deep in the planet. Like, yeah, I think she'd be a little upset.
Ryan, what I'm getting out of this is that you are a popular enough author that you've got a lot of people coming at you, and that is a good thing.
I'm sure that is. Yeah, you're right. That's the way I'm going to look at it. Okay.
It's a bad sign
with Mike.
It's a bad sign if no one's coming at you. That means you're doing something wrong.
Yeah. So if you don't evoke a emotional response, I guess you're doing it wrong. So I've been evoking too many emotional responses, so I'm doing it right. That's what I'm taking from this.
I agree. Are the plasma grenades in the book from Halo?
Part of it, yes, absolutely. Like, I mean, I think, so another one of my big inspirations for the book was Tao Wong's System Apocalypse, as well as like Renedly Ghost Hound on RR. Not Shadow Sun wasn't out yet actually, but it's kind of given me some inspiration for other things. And I loved the chaos grenades that Tao had in his. And I also loved in Halo the plasma grenades. So I was like, you know what? Plasma grenades, and they're kind of the most expensive thing that he could find in the shop that would damage somebody that's stronger than him. And so that's Corsair obviously fell into that category. So it was a lot of fun to write, and I loved. Like, I get a lot of people who loved that scene because of the countdown that he was having, and how that just blasts him out into basically out the window of like the third story at the hospital. Like, it was, and so I love that scene because I still use almost a countdown in every one of my books because like I was like, this really kind of
it hits.
Paces it. Yeah.
I thought it was awesome going around sticking giant robots, being like, gotcha.
Yeah, exactly.
All it was missing was the sticky metal popping up once it blows up.
Yeah. Or yeah, exactly. Something along. Yeah. And that's, yeah, I think like if you don't, a lot of people in our genre, come in with video game experience. And so that's also really cool. Like what you just did is something that, a lot of people that are reading in our genre do, which is like, oh, this reminds me of this game. I got to go back and play that game. So one of the ones that I always love when people find kind of my Breath of Fire references, because that was still probably like that or Final Fantasy were kind of my two big RPGs that I just loved. And so I'll throw some references in kind of to games that I played. And I love when people find them and are like, oh, I'm going to go play that game now. I'm like, okay, done. It's successful, And so what you just said is like exactly that. So I thank you. That's like the best compliment.
Now, it's what seems to be a lighthearted book. And we alluded to this before. It's got some little dark elements to it. Maybe we don't drop some F-bombs, but we do have things like the body of the boy flew through the air lifeless. All that remains in the area of the boy was staining the hand of the dark golem. Now, that's dark.
Yeah. And so, like, I mean, it was interesting because so when I submitted the book to MVP, Dakota had made a pretty clear that, he had the right to ask me to rewrite parts of the book. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. I handed it into him, and he hit on that chapter. And I was like, he's like, yeah, chapter, I can't remember the exact chapter that happens in. It's like chapter 19 or chapter 17 or whatever it is. We gotta change that. I was like, shoot, like too dark. Okay, too dark. Yeah. I killed the kid. Like you can't do that.
So then you rewrote that, and the next part was the metal forearm connected with Alex's head. Rocky watched in horror as the thief's skull collapsed in on the elf. I'm sure he was real pleased when he got to that one then.
Yeah, no, and that's it. But it was funny because he didn't want the change of those. He was like, no, that's fine. It's post-apocalyptic. It's dark. Like, you can leave those in. But what we need to change is we can't just have, like, I had originally written that scene where Rocky goes basically beast mode and kind of Dragon Ball Z style, powers up.
Sick.
Exactly. And so he's like, you can't do that because, like, if you have that, it's really hard to write your character later, because if he has this beast mode that he can just kill everything with, why doesn't he use it all the time? And I was like, oh, good point. So
he would look much better with shiny yellow hair. So that could,
I would say silver. Like, let's be honest, he's going Ultra Instinct. Like, what are you talking about? Wow, like there's no way. Like, he's got to be the most powerful. Come on.
I'm having a hard time keeping up with these references, and I thought I knew shit.
Oh man.
What does it say about you that all your gruesome killings of are children?
Oh God, you sound like Xander, which is Jay's brother. I think so there are other killings that happen. I think the ones that stick in people's minds are the children.
Are the kids?
That is exactly. It's more gruesome, right? And so there's a depravity and kind of a darkness that every human will feel when it comes to kids. And like, so think about, when there's a homeless person on the side of the road, and they're 40, you feel nothing, like I can't, but a lot of people won't feel as much as, you see a 6-year-old in the same position. And so on a visceral level, a child dying is so much darker than, some guy who chose to fight. Like, I mean, one of the main characters of the book dies in book 2, and there was a lot of people that hit really, really hard, but I still get more comments on the children. And so there it is. Like, I've written a character, and he had lots of interactions and lots of backstory, and he was amazing, and he dies. And still, it's like, I can't believe that those children died. And it's like, yeah, no, it's that hits just as hard. And I didn't even have to like give them as much. I didn't even do their deaths on camera as much, so to speak. I did 2 deaths on camera and a couple off camera, and all those ones still hit just as hard. So yeah, yeah.
What does it say about me that the first thing I thought was, I wonder if he could sell those daggers and get some money back?
It's funny because I had it written that he went to go collect the daggers, and my developmental editor was like, nope, that needs to be removed. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. I don't care how logical you are, if you're gonna collect dead people, dead children's weapons to resell them, you're a psychopath, I guess. So now we know what you are.
It's good to know. That saved me a lot of money in therapy. I could go cancel my appointment next week.
Perfect, Mike. Perfect.
I'm learning a lot about myself. One of the goals of this podcast, on a more, I guess you could call it, serious note, is to highlight other elements of fantasy. Obviously, being a LitRPG, this is something unique. And one of the goals is kind of break that traditional stereotype of fantasy, like kind of like the neckbeard dude who only plays video games, misogynistic, kind of just like sword and slasher, what the woman constantly needs to be saved, kind of greaseball type thing that is kind of being broken more and more in fantasy now. What about your books kind of breaks that traditional mold and shows that fantasy has other sides to it as well?
So, I mean, the MC of my book, first off, like that will be the easiest one to tell, is that he's a professional athlete, and I took some of that from my real life. I know how to write that. So I was like, okay, I've experienced it. And as a professional athlete, he played video games till late at night, and read fantasy books, and that stereotypical, you're a jock because you play sports and you can't like anything at all that's considered now nerdy, is not true, obviously. So that's kind of the first stereotype. Second stereotype is that Sella, the MC's companion, is basically a badass. Like, she doesn't need saving. She's a warrior who literally is, knows more about combat than Rocky ever will, because she grew up in that era, was the commander of like armies, so she doesn't need his saving, in any way, shape, or form after she becomes human. So those two right there do it. The other one is, there's lots of, in our genre, what's one of the interesting part is a lot of authors will write gamers kind of into their world, right? And the gamers do better with these systems, which is really quite cool, because they know how the systems kind of work based on the video games they played.
Right.
And I think it's kind of really interesting in our genre, because you're giving, this outlet to a lot of people that, they like playing video games. And if those video games were real, they would absolutely be out there being the athletes, being the gladiators, being the whatever, because there'd be those levels of accomplishment that they're getting from the screen, right? And it's amazing the amount of people that have kind of broken an addiction to, online RPGs and stuff like that through LitRPG books or GameLit books or whatever they are, because it fills that, progression that we want from video games, of like, oh, I leveled up, I'm getting stronger, I'm boom. And that's what LitRPG has done. And I get a lot of people that love it, and they listen on their rides, they're truck drivers, and so it kind of fills that hole. And I think that's kind of amazing, is that it's like all those people that are, that have messaged me, and thank you to those who have, it's like everybody would be out there if the world functioned under different rules, and there'd be different kind of, the jocks wouldn't be jocks, you know what I mean? Like, so LitRPG in and of itself breaks those dynamics. Like, you have a lot of ex-military characters that, know how to kill and know how to do these things, but they also know video games because that's what they did, And so I think that's really cool. Like, I just was like, it really made it a genre that I love to be in. And I think it breaks more molds than other genres. Not all, like, that's obviously a broad stroke, but it breaks a lot of molds. To answer your question.
that was a great answer. Thank you so much for that. A few quick fire ones. What class would you pick, and why would it be Cook?
Oh, that's hilarious. I think you know what, like, I've always loved the side stuff in World of Warcraft and stuff like that. So I loved all the professions and doing stuff. And I thought it'd be amazing if you could cook for people and they'd get stronger. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you could actually see it's like, oh, you ate this and you're stronger. You can lift heavier. You can do those things. And I think that would be, I would be cook for sure. that'd be the sub skill. But the class itself, I think I'd have to be some sort of mage. Like, I think it would just be so much fun to be able to just cast magic, you know what I mean? As much as a lot in our genre do sword, like some sort of melee sword. Why can't I remember the spell sword? Thank you. Spell sword class, because you need to have a combination of the two. I think being a mage in a proper party would be what I'd want to be.
What the fuck is a space singer? Is that like Billy Joel? He does shows at like bars on spaceships.
Space singer actually is so he uses his voice basically to break through dimensions of space, right? So he can kind of open up holes in space and sort of teleport, a little bit like Dante in Dante's Immortality, or a couple other characters that VGO's main character can kind of go through the shadows. And so he can essentially use his voice to travel through distances in space. And that was, so it's like a kind of combat class, but because he uses his voice, he'd also be kind of a bardic class for sure. Yeah.
Okay. So it depends on the song. So like, we didn't start the fire is actually like it starts the fire.
Exactly. There's an attack spell. We are the champions is a surefire win, no matter what.
Gets the
If he
crowd all
knows it,
pumped.
exactly. Pumps everybody up.
I feel like I nailed that one. Rocky, when he says he's 31 years old and his knee pops, is that the most relatable thing about him?
Without a doubt. So also lazy eye. I wrote in that Rockland has a lazy eye. I have a lazy eye. This one, yeah. That was always been like kind of I guess a fantasy of mine. It's like, well, if there was real magic or there was real something, I wouldn't have a lazy eye anymore. I wouldn't, like nobody would have to feel like, joint pains and stuff like that. Popping knees and lazy eyes and all the pains that come with being a professional athlete. I don't think I have ligaments left in either of my ankles, basically. So yeah, I'd like those back, please.
My first thought was that'd be the sickest feeling in the world, just standing up and my knees not cracking.
Oh, and that's it, right? Can you imagine basically being able to have it's kind of the same thing that you see in a lot of, where it's like have all the knowledge you have now, but be in a younger body. And I think that's kind of it just that exact thing is what you're talking about, is like you're traversing that, if you will.
I'm a simple man. That's all I would wish for.
Exactly. Go back in time, remember everything you have now, buy stocks in Apple and Microsoft and
GameStop. Let's go to the moon.
Yeah. As long as you get in at the right time. Yeah, no, and you're not left holding that bag.
Is Rocky just way too horny and he needs to chill out? He couldn't go on this nice camping retreat without bringing a porno. God knows where he found that.
And it's funny, you're one of the few to comment on it.
This is kind of my bread and butter.
And so it's funny because I put that in kind of as okay, this is hilarious. He would sure, I think so. All athletes for the most part, not to mention he's in a cottage by himself, celebrating drunk and planning to drink. Yeah, exactly. So I was like, yeah, you know what? If he was smart, he's bringing something you don't want to be out in the dark with no technology. He can't just look up, a website on his phone.
No, there's no internet. It's a huge deal. At what point do we have to question what's wrong with Sella? Because she knows Rocky is into her, right? It's very obvious. She's doing all the winking behind the back and all that, hip popping and stuff like that. But to him, from his point of view, he thinks they're related. Yeah. She doesn't. She knows that they're not, and she has not told him that. So is she getting off on the idea that he thinks they're related?
I don't think so. I think she just assumes that he knows they're not related, and doesn't bring it up because he's clearly we're not related. Not to mention, even if there is that line of relation, it's a million years, 2 billion years removed. It would essentially be if Adam and Eve actually started all of humanity, we're all related in some way, right? So, and that's kind of the way that I look at it from her point of view. Is it's more she's like, what are you talking about?
No, I heard we are all privy to Rocky's internal monologue trying to rationalize it. No, we know what the rationalizations are there.
Yeah, maybe I shouldn't have wrote those in.
No, I love it. I think it's hysterical. I think that's everything I got. Please use this time to plug what you got coming up and where people can find you.
Absolutely. So I just recently started my website. So just www.Ryan DeBruyn, spelled that way, .com. And it links to all of my social medias. So that's probably the easiest way to just get in touch with me, whatever way you prefer. And then, I literally May 7th, I have a new apocalyptic LitRPG coming out. It's Cultivation Tower Climber Apocalyptic LitRPG. It is. I'm so excited about this one. It's kind of like a pet project I always wanted to write, and finally kind of took some time and just got knocked the first book out, and it kind of is really unique. I don't think anybody's really done it before, in the sense of the way that the training happens, the way that the level ups will happen, the world, how the tower climbing is kind of set into the book, how the world has changed, Check that one out. I will have it up for pre-order probably sometime in April. It's just at the copy editor right now. Otherwise, right now I'm writing Ether Flows 2. So book 1 in that was Tech Doing. And I'm hoping to have Ether Flows 2 out shortly after the release of the book 1 in System Misinterpret, which is called Stark Tower. I should have said that earlier. So that's what I've got coming up.
Just not that much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking the time out. Oh no, we got something more. Please.
No, then I'm going back to Ether Collapse. So all the fans that are out there that want me writing Ether Collapse and solely Ether Collapse, I'm gonna go back to Ether Collapse after Ether Flows 2, and I'm gonna write basically a few books straight, probably 2 books straight in that series, just to kind of get back ahead and make sure everybody's happy. So
right. If fans want you to work on book 4, they could buy the new book where you get all the royalties. That'll get you.
Yeah. Help me out.
Thank you so much for taking the time out. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike. No, this was fantastic. And thanks for having me on the show. And I'm very excited. This is amazing. This was a great interview. So thank you.
As I said, Ryan is an absolute riot. And I was so thankful that he was able to come on the show and spend an hour with me. And I can't wait to have him back on to do Excise. Shout out to him, and look for his new book that's coming out, because he's going solo, and he definitely needs the support of all the Swords and Sports listeners. I said we were going to have a wild April, and honestly, I have confirmed most of it. So let's get right into these books on the horizon, and then close this bad boy out. First, after Ryan is coming, Wild Boy himself, Michael R. Fletcher with Blackstone Heart. The last Smithbow finalist that I'm going to have for this year's competition. For other reasons. Rise of the Gods by Dirk Ashton, that's Michael's podcast mate. Songs of Insurrection by J.C. Kong. And that one I'm fucking excited about. USA Today bestseller, no big deal. And then Legacy of the Brightwash by rising self-pub star herself, Crystal Matar. Did you hear that lineup? Yes, it's as crazy as you think it is. This show is going to the goddamn moon. Shout out to everybody. Brando Sando, take notice. Till next week, read or something. That's the new sign off. Peace.